We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if everybody would stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Good evening, everybody. So it got to be a little bit of a warm evening. Before we get started, as we always do, just a reminder of our mission and vision. Our vision, inspiring all learners to be engaged and successful. Our mission, to provide an enriching environment to meet the needs of all learners, and our core values of respect, integrity, students first, and excellence. As we go through our agenda, let's always keep that in mind. We would need then any changes to the agenda. If not, then we need a motion for approval.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thanks, John. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Hearing the delegations, I don't believe we have any at this point. So we'll just kind of move on to the consent items. You should have received most of those in your packet earlier last Friday. I did get through the invoices. They were excellent as always. And so there was, any of the changes as additional invoices are right in front of you. And those were all there and all in order. So I don't have any report, but thank you, Mary Beth. Well, if we have no further comments or questions, we need a motion for approval of the consent items. So moved. Thanks, Jay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Lori, thank you. Motion and second to approve the consent items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into the superintendent's report.
We did hold job fair last Monday night. We could go tonight. We had a really good turnout. We had over 20 people who were in that night. We hired many of them, as you see from the new contracts later on. We met a lot of our needs in the food service. We're able to hire a number of teacher associates. So proved to be successful, pushing that out there and getting the information out to as many people. We were able to hire some really good people, and we're excited to recommend them later on. Upcoming board elections. This is school board election year. We wanted to provide those dates for you. I think Mary Beth has the paperwork with her tonight. So August 23rd is when candidate filing can begin. September 16th is the filing deadline. September 21, candidates can still withdraw by 5 p.m. that day. Then November 2nd is election day. And we go into our canvassing of votes before we have our organizational meeting in November.
Who's up for election?
Rodney J. Gore. We also held our school improvement meeting tonight. A couple of you attended that. Thank you for doing that. The agenda, we reviewed the school improvement advisory council and the committee, what they do. It's a group that's gotten away from us and we wanted to rekindle. And I think we did a good job of starting that efforts tonight. We talked about our ESSER 3 usage, the money that we're getting, some plans that we have and other ideas that we had, and that will lead to a recommendation later tonight of that usage. Reviewed our current performance profile. That currently in our performance profile, we're still on 2019 data. We did take new assessments in the spring of 2021, but the profile's not updated yet, but we hope that it will be soon, and we'll bring that information to you guys. We talked about our project update, really the objectives that spurred the project, and then where we're at in the process, and then the new school app that we pushed out to all of our people today. Social media, and I think that's going really well. So that group includes community members, parents, teachers, board members, administrators, involving as many stakeholders as possible. And I think the first meeting went really well. We had some great discussions. We got some awesome feedback, some awesome information back, which is the intent. Just open dialogue with our people about what we can do to make our places as great as possible for our kids. So I thought it went really well. In the building project, the memo that I sent you, our building project will not meet the August 16th substantial goal completion. We have supply chain delays, like so many people do right now. Specifically, we have delays in some of the steel siding. The concession stand will be operational for the first home football game on the 27th. It probably will not be sided completely. The countertops won't be installed, however, they will install temporary countertops for us. So they're doing everything they can to make it usable for our people. Everything will be paved. You'll be able to be handicap accessible in all directions. All the restrooms will be operational, but there'll be some really cosmetic type stuff that isn't.
The walkway lights and everything will be for people and.
Not sure on the lights installation. Everything's ready for those. I think those will probably be done. They are planning on having it completely finished for our second home varsity football game, which would be September 10th. Just keep seeing how the progress goes. A little bit of information on the start of school. We'll have our new teachers to the district in on August 16th and 17th. That's next Monday and Tuesday. We'll have a luncheon with all of our new teachers at the August 17th, on August 17th at 11:30 at the tool shed. Invite all of you guys, as always, to that. We'll have our all staff and teachers kick off at 7:45 on August 19th, Wednesday, right here in the Commons. Sunday, August 22nd, Damon West will be here presenting. Damon is the co-author of The Coffee Bean, which is a great message for all people, community, children, staff alike, and he's going to share that Sunday night. He'll then share it with our staff Monday morning and our 7th through 12th grade students during the day on Monday. So we're really excited about having Damon here.
Any questions? The report.
On the last sentence there, so you've got first day of school will be on the 24th. I had it on the 23rd.
It is that. I have that typed wrong.
Okay, just want to make sure.
First day of school is the 23rd. We will have
Great day.
for 5th through 12th grade. And we'll have a 2-hour late start on that day. Thank you for.
So that 2-hour late, says we want a 2-hour late start on Monday for grades 5 through 12.
And then now, all grades first day of school is the 24th. So we don't have school for pre-K through 4.
Yeah, okay, that's
Okay,
I just
that's
wanted-
what.
Yeah, you had it right then.
That's why we.
But the first day, basically the first day of school for 5 to
All
12
kids.
is the 23rd with 2 hours.
Correct.
Others have conferences.
We have conferences pre-K through 4 on that day. Then everyone starts the 24th. Preschool, that's K through 4.
All right, any other further discussion?
And that's regular start time on the 24th.
Yes, it is.
Well, we're getting really close to the start date.
We are.
The registration today kind of leads to say we're going.
Yeah, registration tonight, I think we're really busy out there, and we've had people in all day, all summer for them. And it looks like we will have a number of new students. Kind of sure have that coming also.
Okay, we'll get started then with our new business. And I see the first item is the Iowa Lakes contract for 21-22.
Yep, annual contract for us with Iowa Lakes. We need to approve our contract for them for courses that our students take. Some specific terms of the contract are financially $31.11 per credit per student. That's 17% of what would be their regular tuition costs. We do pay textbook fees, which most of those are online textbooks for them now. Any consumable expense would be by the school, by us, the participant. Equipment expenses also by us, although they do certainly help with some of the equipment, some of our courses.
Joe?
Is this for like automotive program, or is this for the extra, like, CNA classes and stuff that they take out in college?
It is not for automotive. We have a separate contract for automotive and broadcasting. That is not included here. This would be maybe someone taking Western Civ for college credit or American History for college credit. We have a number of those that are taught in our building. Or our kids could take Iowa Lakes, not from our teachers and our staff also. The rate is different.
What are we spending typically a year? How many kids are really taking advantage, or how many credits are we running through?
I don't know if I could give you that number right now, but we can probably find that out and get it to you. We have a lot of kids taking college credit. But
That's
we'll
all-
get that number.
Yeah, that's awesome, and very bad that it's easy to run too, just kind of maybe some of the trends, what, we see out there.
Any other further questions or discussion?
There were some changes in this contract that come from legislative changes. However, it was already practice that we were doing. And the changes are, if a child would take a course for high school credit in the summer, the legislative changes that you have to give them high school credit for that. We were already doing that. That was our regular practice, but that was a legislative change, and that is reflected in this contract too.
I make a motion to approve the Iowa Lakes contract.
Thanks, Andrew. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Doug. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We got some board policies that, for a few to talk about.
There is a lot, and I try to make this as easy as I can. The first thing is, there are no, this isn't policy creation. This is policy revision or, in some cases, even rescinding. So I would recommend to you guys, and it's that we can make a motion to approve the first hearing and waive the second in that case, if that's something you're interested in doing. All of these changes come from different legislation that occurred during the 2021 session. There's 19 policies that either need to be revised or rescinded, and we won't get to all of those this month, but we will get to most of them due to those legislative changes. So I created the document for you, and I'll go through this. The actual changes are in red, so those will be things that we change in our policy, and then in the black is what we currently have. So we start with R200 is the responsibilities of board directors. Ours is the statement of guiding principles. The change would be to the responsibilities of board directors. And it's quite a change, probably the biggest, quite an addition, I should say. And it comes from the last paragraph. The board has a responsibility to review the education program's performance under its evaluated duty. So the language in the policy is updated to reflect the affirmative duty that the school board is to oversee improvements in student outcomes. And really, I think we bring that information to you, and you guys probably are doing that in action right now, but it has to be in policy, so now it is in policy. Moving on to 206.1, which is the president. And this is going to be the same change for 206.1 and 206.2. When school board elections were moved from September to November of odd number years, which happened 2 years ago, there was some confusion that was caused. Districts were required to elect their board president in even number years at the same time that they hold their annual meeting to close out their financials, which was normally done in September, which would be like our next month meeting. But board presidents could only serve a one-year term, so when they would get reorganized in September, and their one-year term was up in September the next year, but the elections weren't until November. So what the change in the policy is that they can go to the 13 months all the way till November, if that makes sense. I don't know if I did a great job of explaining that, but that's the same. So replacing paragraph 2 is that the president of the board is elected to serve a one-year term by a majority vote in odd number years at the regular meeting held between 12 to 13 months after the organizational meeting, instead of 1 year. So in theory, there's probably a lot of districts, including us, who, according to board policy, run a month without a president because their organizational meetings were a month later. So this change, and then the same change for Vice President 206-2. 213, public participation at board meetings. The update to this policy reflects new requirements placed on the school board to allow an item to be placed on the board agenda through a petition. So for example, we received a petition last Wednesday that we want to put on the agenda, math grading practices. If they have 10% of the people who voted in the previous election, or 500, it would 10% for us would be less, so that's what it would be. Then we have to put that on the agenda, so that would be on the agenda that I sent out to you on Friday. It does not have to be new business, and it does not have to be an action item. It just simply has to be an agenda. So what that means is you wouldn't have to vote on it. It just has to be an agenda item that has discussion. Also with that, if it involves curriculum, so we don't like the math curriculum that we're using, that has to have an action item. So they would, again, the community could create a petition. They don't like the math curriculum, that has to be put on the agenda and it has to be voted on. You guys you wouldn't have to change it, or you could change it, that's completely up to you, but it does have to have board motion in that case.
Could we take an action to delay it a month?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could they just call and request to be on the agenda? We could say yes?
Yeah, we talked about that in the agenda review. Regular practice, at least since I've been here, we probably would have already put them on anyway. Now it's just reflected in policy that you have to. If we get called the Wednesday before and someone wants on the agenda, we put it on the agenda.
They don't need X
Okay.
hundred number of signatures in order to, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
There were probably districts across the state that districts were not listening to the community people.
Correct. Yeah.
And kind of ignoring the situation. They finally hit the legislature took care of it.
Yeah, good change probably.
Yeah.
Yes,
Overall,
it is
good
a
change.
Yeah. So that's what the change in red represents.
But it doesn't have to be voted on unless it's curriculum.
Correct. Just has to be heard. And like always, and you guys have had public comments and public participation in lots of board meetings. You guys don't have to, have a dialogue or even have a response. That's up to you and how you handle that.
I want to make sure I'm language voted in the last school election. Now they're referring to electing board members.
They are.
And they're referring to a special vote for ISL, Pepples.
I would probably have to ask counsel on that.
I guess it's school elections, but it worries me when I read last school election. Is a Pepple vote an election? Probably not.
No, I think
Is
that's a
an
special
ISL?
vote. Special vote.
Special votes.
Yeah.
All right, so it should be the November elections for board members.
For odd years.
All right,
Yeah.
got it.
213.2, public comments. Due to legislative changes, the Iowa Department of Education will be issuing guidance related to parents and community members who have concerns about the district. The guidance must be referenced in each school district's handbook. So what that means is the Department of Ed on their website is going to have, if you have a complaint or a concern, this is what you do. So what the board policy is saying is that we will put that in our handbook, that you can go to that website. So that will be something we have to put into our handbooks and then bring back for approval.
Hey Joe, sorry, but going back to 213, my only concern there is, I'd like to think that we're a board we want input, right? We want participation from the community, family members, parents, whoever. And if we state this, and that somebody gets on and reads our policy before, for instance, they pick up the phone and say, hey, like this, come before the school board, is that they wouldn't, because they'd be like, I'm gonna have to go get X number of signatures. It's obviously gonna have to be something pretty significant
Yeah.
for somebody to go to that extent. But, you know, so is there some additional language we can put in there at the discretion?
We still have the public comment part of our board policy, none of that changed.
Okay, so that covers that.
This is just an addition, yeah.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
for example, when someone contacts Mary Beth or I about being put on the agenda, Mary Beth tells them, okay, and then I usually contact them back with, this is what our board policy is, where it talks about how long they can speak and so on.
Perfect, okay.
All that can
covers it.
still happen.
All right.
This is just another mode that if they do this, you have to let them.
Gotcha.
We were already letting them anyway.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So going on to 3014, these are pretty simple, the next two involving superintendent evaluations and administrative evaluations. The change is that the standards are new. So that's just reflected in red.
And later on in 302.4, administrative evaluation, can we correct a few spellings later on?
Yeah, I will take it exactly from the IASB, so it won't have
Okay,
those
very good.
changes or those typos. So same thing in 3024, just the changes in the standards. 40114, employee expression. This is a new mandatory board policy that clarifies the First Amendment rights of employees to utilize free expression. Recently, a change in the law offered increased employment protections to employees who are acting within their ethical boundaries to protect their free expression of students. The policy language reflects those increased protections and also outlines reasonable restrictions on expressions for employees to provide guidance for the districts on how to balance and enforce employees' expression rights with the district's need to maintain a safe and orderly environment. The legal counsel guidance that I received last week, that still, as always, our people have freedom of expression and speech, and we support that. We also support having a safe and orderly learning environment here. So time, manner, and place is part of that. And we're supposed to emphasize that as well whenever we have to discuss this with anyone, is that time, manner, and place certainly impact having a safe and orderly learning environment.
Will this be shared in any of like the, I don't know that everybody necessarily reads updated policies, but so will we share this with all employees?
We have a couple different things we need to cover in staff meetings, including employee expression, as well as some curriculum stuff that we'll get to in here that our principals will take care of in their staff meetings.
When I was reading this, a question came up. When an employee, like it looks like the second paragraph, when employees speak within their official capacity, is that just while they're here under contract, or, because I know, social media people speak and stuff like that, or does that, if they're at home, are they outside their official capacity? Are they citizens or parents or?
The second paragraph talks about in social media, it says that, remember, school community may not be able to separate employees as private citizens. That it's, even though there is a separation, it's how you're being viewed and how it's interpreted. There is recent legislation that actually comes up in the student expression where a child did speak very negatively of the school, upset with the school, and a tirade on social media. They went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they ruled that was separate from the school and had no impact on the learning or the content. So it was upheld that because she was punished for that, and it was upheld that she couldn't be. So that I think the same legal backing would come here.
So it's like the employee negative, if the negative impacts the employee's ability to perform their job for the district, may still result in disciplinary action or including termination.
Yeah. And if it affects what they do here or the order of what they do here, then it affects how they can do their job. 412.3 classified employee group benefits. Minor updates to this policy there are not due to a legal change, but they reflect the flexibility districts have in establishing minimum employment standards to offer health insurance. So that's a good piece to have in place. Which we do have those minimums put in place for health insurance. This puts that in policy that we have the flexibility to create that. 501.14, open enrollment transfers, procedures as a sending district. There are new open enrollment laws. There's protections for pre-kindergarten children enrolled in special education, parents of pre-kindergarten children in special ed who they're in the district's basic enrollment. They'll file the same manner as using the September 1st deadline. So they were maybe already in the district, but they can open and roll out, and they can wait to the September 1st deadline. That's what the change is. Just because they're in special education, they don't have a different date before they would, because they were already here. Open enrollment transfers as the receiving district. This policy was updated due to a change that now permits open enrollment protections for those kids. It's the same one, it's just on the opposite end now, that they can open enroll using the September 1 district as the receiving district. We have to accept those. 502.3 actually rescinds 504.3, which is student publications. So what it does is it takes student expression and student publications and puts them into one. This is a mandatory board policy to have it this way, so we have to put them together. Updates to this policy language reflect the changes in the law conferring greater protections in student expression, like we had for the employees. This is for the students. Due to these updates, it made sense to combine these policies, which is what ACSD has done. The topics of student expression and within the publications are closely linked and addressed in the same chapter of the Iowa Code. So we'll put that in there. Again, time, manner, and place are important when we talk about expression, that it doesn't negatively interrupt the school day and the workings of the school. And that actually goes into 502.3R1.
Let me ask you a question. I think back to an old TV show, and I've seen schools use this years ago in the newsletters, student newsletters. And the show was Point Counterpoint. It was on Sunday nights. And you see them in the morning register once in a while. Topic. Person writes this side of the aisle what they believe. This person writes this side of the aisle what they believe. And the reader tries to figure out where they really believe in the two sides. And I saw this in student newsletters years ago where districts used point counterpoint. So a kid wanted to write about behavior at a basketball game, whatever it is, and wrote the viewpoint. And another kid wrote the opposing viewpoint, where whatever that viewpoint might be, then the reader kind of made a decision where they might believe or they failed. Same thing applies there or not? If a kid wants to write something, I don't care how you want to label it, something, another kid write counterpoint and publish it or not?
It talks about that in the policy, that the school official, that they should have guidelines that are put in place prior to the editorial or the opinion-based. But that if they live within those parameters that they've put in place, then the opinions in that student publication certainly should be published. And I think that's a really
It was very effective.
yeah, it's a great great to take the kids through that, to be able to argue
Well,
one side or another.
It gives the student, the adult, a chance to read sides, where on the TV, all you hear is a bickering, we won't vote for this, we won't vote for that. A chance to read both sides and try to figure out where is the facts, where is the truth, if any, where is this thing going? And if people write it professionally, it gives them time to discuss it.
Here is where the limits to the student expressions, part C,
Okay?
limits would, if they encourages students to commit unlawful acts, if it encourages students to violate lawful school regulations, if it encourages students to cause material and the substantial disruption of the orderly, efficient operation of the school, those things are all that can be limited. So it lays it out pretty well.
Okay.
That gets rid of 5043 and 5043R1. We move into 505 graduation requirements. Those are changed because a student who may be participating in the PAGE program at the Capitol, they get social studies credit for that. So it's great, they should, that makes sense. And then also, someone who's participating in the junior ROTC would receive a PE credit if they do that. So to add those, the flexibility, then you have to change the graduation requirements. So that's what the change is in 505.5, and then also the 6036, the PE credit. And then we end up tonight with 604.1, private instruction. This language reflects changes in the legal definition of competent private instruction to include private instruction provided by a parent, guardian, or legal custodian. It did not include that before. So competent private instruction can now be defined as parent, guardian, legal custodian, rather than just licensed practitioner. So those are the first round, and the next round is shorter. But that I thought was a good place to end that. Like I said, I would recommend that the motion be to approve these revisions and waiving the second reading.
So moved.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, we've had some great discussion as we've read through this, but is there any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Now we've got to go through and talk about our SRO funds and
Yeah.
improve the usage.
And really, you guys have, you've worked with these ESSER funds a lot. So what you're doing tonight is you're approving ESSER funds that have the goals to, number one, implement evidence-based activities to address learning loss and implement summer learning and enrichment programs. Number two, better meet the needs of student academic, social, and emotional needs. And three, aid in promoting healthy and safe learning environments. That's what you'd be approving, is those three goals of our ESSER 3. Now, some of the things that we have already in our plan that you guys are aware of: our Bertha Godfrey interventionist, our Bryant elementary interventionist, which is going to be the 5th section of 1st grade this year, our Lucia Wallace interventionist, our extra middle school teacher, which allows us to put interventions in place, our IJAG at the high school, our youth social worker, school worker, our therapist, the air handling unit. Those are all things that we are putting in place to accomplish those goals. We did talk about these at our SIAC meeting today. These would all be supported. We had lots of good ideas, other things for us to think about as well. But it was a great discussion of uses for our ESSER 3 dollars that would benefit our kids.
Even as far as to reach out more to families, know,
Yeah.
not just so
Yeah.
much into with our students,
Yeah.
but to reach out to our families.
Yeah, what can we do to support our families? Not just our children, but what can we do to support our families? I think that's a really good approach and perception to take, and something for us to think about.
So Joe, you have to submit these for approval. Do they, let's just say all of these are approved, and we've got an amount. Do they, is it like a flat check they cut for each one of these, or is it over a given period of the 2 years, or how's the payout work here?
Yeah, it all works, it's quarterly, but we get reimbursed for expenses that we have that fall under the allowable uses.
Gotcha, on a quarterly basis,
Yeah.
submit a reimbursement.
Prior approval takes place when something a piece of equipment, individual equipment costs more than $5,000. So like our air handling unit, that takes prior approval. Buying 50 interactive boards that cost $1,500, even though the amount's a lot, you don't need prior approval for that. So it's really the reimbursement. Then I have a lot of reporting that I have to do with the state and federal government on how we are spending it, and using data to show if it's effective or not.
Ballpark, where we're here versus the allotted amount at this point in time, does this represent 60%, 80%?
Probably 900,000. So 900 of the 1.4 million.
Got it.
Okay, we would need a motion then to approve the ESSER 3 usage.
So moved.
Thanks, Todd. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lori. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approve our joint representation waiver.
We continue to work on our study of reorganization of the Laverne Community School District, so we are now entering into year 2 of the 3-year study. Both districts have legal counsel in place. We both have to have legal counsel in place to do this. Ehlers and Cooney, they're the experts in the state with school reorganization. They really handle all of them. They can serve as legal counsel for both districts. We just have to have this waiver in place to do that. So I'd recommend that we approve the waiver for Ehlers and Cooney to represent both districts.
So moved.
Thanks, Jay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Todd. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. High school tag stipend.
One of our late resignations in the spring was scheduled to be our .25 high school tag teacher this year. Mr. Cecil and I have been working with our current K-8 instructor to see what we can do to utilize her to meet the needs of those kids. She certainly is willing to do it, and we got a good plan in place, but it certainly goes beyond her contractual duties to do that before school, after school, as well as throughout the day. I recommend a $5,000 stipend for Mrs. Brandt to perform these duties for the 2021-2022 school year.
The plan is to try to fill that position in the
It is,
future?
yes, and I would say the plan is probably to expand our tag program from that .25 at the high school to a half to a full.
What would we typically have budgeted for that, Jeff?
Well, we had budgeted a quarter of a teacher, .25 is what we were scheduled to do for this year. So this is under what we had budgeted for that.
Will she be doing relatively spending the same amount of hours?
I don't think so, not with what we have established for the year. I think 5,000 is a fair amount.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, we need a motion then to approve the high school tag stipend.
I make a motion to approve a $5,000 stipend to Mrs. Brandt, fiscal year 2022.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, I'm assuming Merrill's here, to maybe, or if we have any questions about the used bus sales.
Yep, if you have any questions, we have received bids for the sale of our 5 oldest buses. These buses, they typically don't carry a lot of value to them. I recommend, we received bids from 3 different people, so I recommend the sale of bus number 1 to Monson Salvage for $1,125. Bus number 1 is a 2002 with 193,000 miles on it. Bus number 3, I recommend to Brian Riggert for $1,500. Bus number 3 is also a 2002 with over 230,000 miles on it. Bus number 4 to Monson Salvage for $1,125. That's a 2006 with 176,000 miles on it. Bus 17 to Monson Salvage for $3,075. That is a 2001 with 182,000. And then bus 21 to Brian Rigger for $1,200. That's a 1994 Chevrolet with 236,000. And if you have any questions on those buses, Merrill is here to answer them.
$3,000 for a used bus is really good money.
Yeah. Does that one have something different on it, Merrill?
Oldest bus, and we get the most money for it.
I'm thinking there's a lot of people that wanted that, well, obviously all 3 bidders wanted that bus to make a camper out of.
Oh.
So I'm not for sure what I can't imagine Munson's gonna cut it up when he pays that much money for it, but he may, but that's.
Which at these lower prices, that's what they're gonna do probably.
That's what,
Scrap.
that, I know for sure that's what the first person was wanting it for and stuff like that, because it was the right size, it was good shape and stuff like that, so.
I make a motion to approve our used bus sales.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Andrea, thanks, Jay. Any further discussion?
That's good money.
All right, we have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we go into, open enrollment.
We have 9 open enrollment applications this month. 7 of those applications are into the district. 2 of the applications are for students who have recently moved into the district, open enrolling back. And actually, new legislation is we have to approve those, which typical practice would be for us to do that anyway. So I do recommend all 9 of these open enrollment applications.
Any new students in, or they?
7 of, yeah, the
But
top
they-
7 are all, they're all
New to the district, they're.
All right, we need a motion then to approve the open enrollment.
So moved.
Thanks, Jay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Todd, thank you. A motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. A lot of new contracts to discuss. too.
new contracts. Talked about the successful job fair.
People came looking for jobs?
We did. We had
Yeah.
over 20 people came that day. We interviewed people on the spot, really quality people, so we did really, really well. Tony Hogue, volunteer swim coach. Mr. Hogue has served in that capacity in the past. Madison Elsbecker for 7th grade math. This would be, we would approve Mrs. Elsbecker pending successful student teaching and acquiring her initial teaching license. She's student teaching this fall. That's a position that we are going to have to start the year with a substitute with. She is an Alberta graduate. Her husband Blake's going to teach high school social studies for us next year. Steph Metz as a teacher associate in middle school. Crystal Bronson, teacher associate in middle school. Andrea Myrie as a cook. Brittany Anderson, teacher associate at Bishop Garrigan. Beth Charlton, transportation associate and cook. She's working in both departments. Janet Glau, cook at Bertha Godfrey. Daniel Hanselman, teacher associate at the middle school. Amanda Fairbanks, teacher associate at the middle school. Jamie Elbert, teacher associate at Bertha Godfrey. Tammy Fish, Teacher Associate at Bishop Garrigan, Michelle Parsons Cook at Lucia Wallace, Justin Knoll, Media Associate, Teacher Associate, Katie Wadley, Teacher Associate, Tina Jones, Food Service and Bus Teacher Associate, and then Colin Besh and Bryce Bradley as volunteer assistant football coaches.
Now, with this, where does that put us in terms of needs for cooks and associates and stuff?
We think associates we're hired, although, you know, we do get new students in that sometimes have needs, and I know we may have some of those. Food service, I think we're close. Is there one more? Yeah. Realize that with teacher associates and in food service last year, we were never fully staffed. So we are in a much better place right now than we were for the entire year last year.
Well, I'm sure glad the job fair worked.
Yeah.
It's coming
Yeah.
earlier, but that's not the case.
And, you know, hopefully we don't have as many openings, and it's not something we have to do.
Yep. All right, we need a motion then to approve new contracts.
Second.
All right. Second.
Second.
All right, thanks. Todd, motion, then Andrea, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, well, motion carries. We'll move on to resignations.
We have 4 resignations. Sonata Arrowwood, Teacher Associate, Britta Godfrey, Brandy Kaler, Teacher Associate at the middle school, Vicki Duckert, Teacher Associate at the high school, and Carrie Buss in the food service.
Hopefully we fill most of them already.
I think all of them.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve resignations.
Thanks, Andrew. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thanks. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
A question, when we have employees leave, like, you know, do we do any sort of an exit interview to try to find, you know?
We do not have a formal.
Otherwise, is there, you know, what I mean?
Yeah, we do not have a formal exit process. It's probably something we should adopt. In most cases, I know in all 4 of these cases, I have had discussions and know the reasons. Some of it's professional advancement, some of it's to refer or pursue degrees and so on. So, but I think that's something we should probably examine a little closer as a board, as an exit process. And that usually goes directly to you guys, is how those typically work in schools. So that's something, I'll look into that and see what I can find.
Good question. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're at the adjournment. We, at this point, need a motion for adjournment. Thanks, Jay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Todd. We are adjourned then. Thanks, everyone, for tonight, for coming in.
Being a little bit old school,